Violent attack took place at Durga Temple in United Kingdom Smethwick. Bottles and crackers were thrown into temple premises. People even tried to barge inside the temple but were stopped by the police. As per eyewitnesses, the attackers were seen shouting Allahu Akbar slogans. Many more such protests are planned at temples around Britain is what we're understanding. Call for the protest comes after unrest in Leicester between people from Hindu and Muslim faith groups. More than 24 officers were also injured as a result of the disorder on Saturday night between the two communities. So as we pointed out, once again you're seeing a violent attack that took place at the Durga Temple once again in United Kingdom in the backdrop of the demonstrations that we'd seen in Leicester post the India-Pakistan match. Now we're understanding this time around in Smethwick in United Kingdom, bottles and crackers, as I pointed out, were thrown into temple premises. There are some other details that we're now picking up as well, and this is what we're picking up by the means of what sources are telling CNN News 18, that this was in fact started by Muslim groups that are fueled by the ISI. We're also understanding Sadhvi Ridambara's London tour was to begin today. She's known as a Hindu nationalist ideologue. Anti-Hindu forced Durga Bhawan to cancel the visits because their allegation is that Sadhvi is anti-Muslim. Anti-Hindu group supported by the Congress unit in London, anti-India, anti-Hindu, anti-Modi agenda of Pakistan. This is what we're picking up by the means of sources. We'll try and get more details of what has happened this time around, what are the similarities that we're seeing in both these attacks. But what we're also now picking up by the means of what eyewitnesses are now narrating is that attackers were in fact seen shouting slogans like Allahu Akbar. Many more such protests are also planned at temples around Britain is also what we're understanding. Let me first bring in my colleague Sanjay Suri, who in fact has been tracking all these developments for us. Sanjay, first I want to begin by understanding this latest violent attack that has happened at the Durga Temple. What is the similarity in terms of the demonstrations that took place in Leicester last week?
Well, on the face of it, this could appear a copycat demonstration, but what is very clear, and I was at Smethwick last evening, just after all this had broken out, and it is very clear that this was well organized, just as the attacks and the assaults in Leicester have been well organized, and Leicester was the first, Smethwick next last evening. And everyone I spoke to at the Smethwick Temple said that they are living in great fear, that there will be further attacks on them. There will be further attacks on other temples at other locations around the country. They were so scared, they were reluctant to say anything on camera for fear they may be identified over social media and then be targeted individually. This is a very systematic and well-resourced and well-planned program of assaulting and threatening whole groups. And they are picking on temples that are vulnerable. These are not forts. This is just a place for worship. There's a pandit in there. People go and pray and come away. They have no means of defending such assaults. They can only rely on the police, and the police, certainly in Leicester, are active at that. But this is clearly a very well-resourced, very well-organized campaign. And a campaign it is. This is not spontaneous. That has been clear from the events in Leicester and now in Smethwick.
Sanjay, I'll just request you to stay on with us. What you're pointing out and what you're telling us is very, very crucial, that this in fact wasn't spontaneous. This was pre-planned, and this is what the details I just put out in terms of Muslim groups fueled by the ISI. But let's just bring our viewers up to speed of what has happened in the United Kingdom and what are the similarities that we see. First Leicester, now Smethwick. And as Sanjay Suri, my colleague, is pointing out, that what is now becoming very, very clear is that none of this was spontaneous. This was all pre-planned. In Leicester, what did we have? You had a Hindu temple vandalized. The fear today on the ground is that many more temples could come under attack as well. A saffron flag was pulled down. Then what did we see? We also saw targeted in presence of the police. There are some injuries that have been reported as well. As I pointed out, this was all after the clashes that broke out after the India-Pakistan cricket match. Then let's talk to you what's taken place in Smethwick. Protests outside the Durga Bhawan. As I pointed out, Sadhvi Ridambara's tour, there was a lot of pressure to cancel it as well. Bottles, crackers, all of this was thrown into the temple premises. Protesters then tried to scale the temple fence and walls as well. What we're also understanding, and this is what even eyewitnesses are now telling us, the crowd was chanting anti-Hindu slogans. Slogans like Allahu Akbar could be heard in the vicinity and in the area as well. Sanjay Suri continues to be with us. Sanjay, as you were pointing out, this looks like this was pre-planned. It wasn't spontaneous. So the first question is, who is behind this? The other is, we're also now picking up that many other temples could come under attack as well.
Well, who's behind this is very clear. We had a statement from the Pakistani High Commission condemning what they call as Hindu violence. Now, Smethwick, where I was last evening, I can't see any sign of a Hindu violence here or violence from any group other than this group that came and surrounded the temple and threw bottles inside, threw firecrackers, shouted slogans, shouted abuse. Now, this was no violence at all. It was very clearly an orchestrated campaign and a well-resourced campaign run by the Pakistani High Commission and its wing, the ISI. This is not the first we are seeing of this. It rises every now and then to create some trouble in some form or other. That is its job, that is its mandate. And this is something that can only be stopped by the British government and by the local police, who have not been very effective at all. And you're quite right, there are threats now to other temples. People are panicking across the country. People are afraid to go to a temple. Nobody is prepared now to invite anyone from India. These mobs have been telling people and shouting at them, saying that they will need to get the permission from these people, the people who are protesting, before they think of inviting anyone from India to visit Britain. They will, in fact, vet the process of all invitations from India. This is a very serious threat. This is not democracy at work. This is not peaceful right to protest. This is not expression at work in line with freedom and individual thought. This is an organized campaign to attack and to intimidate.
Sanjay Suri, thanks a lot for getting us all those details. We'll, of course, continue to come back to you right through the day.